Last time on the Monroe Show Z.
Dude, I just want to talk about Dragon Ball or Smash Brothers or something. So I'm going to actually talk about Dragon Ball now. One thing that has always interested me is Jiren. Most fans don't really like him, and I can't blame them. For example, if you just read his wiki entry, you would probably think that he's a terrible antagonist, that he's poorly written, ridiculously overpowered, and really just kind of boring. And you know what? You're not wrong for thinking that. However, despite all of these issues and in a weird way in part to these points, he ended up being at the forefront of a lot of my favorite parts of the Tournament Power arc. Maybe even being one of my favorite parts of the series as a whole. And today I'd like to make the case for why I feel that way. But before that, I think it's important to look at how Dragon Ball handled villains in the past. When the Z Fighters first fought Frieza, it was a constant back and forth. First, one of the heroes would power up by having their potential awakened, getting a Zenkai boost, or by some other means. And just when it seems like they might possibly have a chance of beating Frieza, he changes into his next form. Things continue like this for a while until eventually Goku achieves Super Saiyan status and finally surpasses Frieza. Following that, they eventually have to fight the androids and Cell, where this whole song and dance repeats once more. One of the villains seems overwhelmingly strong, only for one or more of the Z Fighters to catch up within a few episodes at most. This is the formula of the show throughout pretty much every single major arc in Dragon Ball Z. Super changes this formula up for the most part, where with the exception of Beerus, most antagonists are more or less evenly matched with Goku and Vegeta. While they do occasionally reveal new techniques, you don't really see them playing catch-up very much anymore. In this way, it's much closer to early Dragon Ball with a focus on abilities and techniques. The one exception to this that I've already mentioned is Beerus. While he is incredibly powerful compared to everyone else, he's hardly ever presented as a real threat. While the show will remind you that he can be a threat, he is mostly treated as comedic relief, and a reason for Goku to unlock his new Super Saiyan skill tree. However, once the show gets to the Tournament of Power, we encounter an antagonist who not just seems absolutely undefeatable from the start, but also doesn't mess around like some past villains. Unlike all other Dragon Ball antagonists before him, Jiren is pretty much at full power from the start, even surpassing the already seemingly invincible gods of destruction. While other Dragon Ball antagonists have felt menacing, it rarely ever felt like they were truly invincible. It was always this back and forth, a tug of war, so to speak. But with Jiren, this is not the case. Throughout the entire Tournament of Power, he absolutely crushes any attempt to even slightly dent him. He managed to shatter Hit's time skip by pure power of will, counter a massive spirit bomb by merely looking at it intensely, and even when Goku and Vegeta powered up to their absolute limit, Vegeta even achieving a new form in the process, they hardly even managed to make him break a sweat as he fended both of them off. Hell, the minor characters were not even able to physically approach him while he was meditating due to the sheer power he was emanating. Of course, I understand that him being so ridiculously overpowered makes him boring at times, but at the same time, it's exactly what made it so enjoyable to me. The very rare moments when anyone actually manages to pose a threat to him feel exhilarating. Every time Goku goes Ultra Instinct, that song kicks in, and he actually manages to keep up with Jiren for a little while, the fact that these moments where it feels like Goku can win feel so brief, make them feel more meaningful than this constant tug of war. While yes, most battles in Z can be seen in a similar way since villains aren't at their max power, and Goku and company are constantly catching up to that point, there are several times where we see them as weak. For example, with Cell's pre-perfect forms, he could have easily been beaten by a maximum power Vegeta. In fact, several villains could have been beaten at earlier points if characters were to just go all out against them. But here, for once we are seeing characters go all out, several at once in fact, and yet still Jiren until the very end is hardly phased. To me, Jiren reminds me a lot of One Punch Man Saitama in one specific way. Even in the series itself, we see Saitama get excited at the very idea of finding someone who can stand on equal ground with him, and that's the kind of feeling I get in those brief and final moments of Goku being able to push Jiren back, because both of these characters, Saitama and Jiren, are treated as immovable objects. That feeling of excitement I get, that makes him pretty damn cool in my eyes. So yeah, conceptually, Jiren might suck. His backstory is boring and generic. He's OP as all hell with no interesting reason for being so. The guy on paper just sounds boring. I would never call Jiren one of my favorite characters. However, his execution led to several scenes I would put up there with some of my favorites in all of Dragon Ball. And I have a slight feeling I'm not the only one that feels that way.